Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lumpim Vishum. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Monday, the 20th of April. Rahul Gandhi leads India's opposition attack against government as budget session resumes. Pakistan and China to sign deals worth $46 billion during President Xi's visit. And Lankan court summons former President Rajapaksa in bribery case. And now for all the details. The budget session of the Indian Parliament resumed on Monday. The government is eyeing to push through key legislations in the session, including the controversial land acquisition bill. Take a look.
The second phase of the budget session of the Parliament got to a rocky start on Monday as opposition demanded an apology from Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a remark by one of his cabinet colleagues against Congress Party President Sonia Gandhi. The Lok Sabha was adjourned many times as a relentless opposition was persistent on its demand. Prime Minister Modi had earlier in the day sought cooperation of all the parties for a smooth functioning of the House.
मुझे विश्वास है कि इस दूसरे चरण में भी चर्चा का स्तर और ऊपर उठता जाएगा, सामान्य मानवी की आशा अपेक्षाओं के अनुकूल मंथन होगा और सभी दलों के सहयोग से संसद में बहुत ही अच्छे निर्णय होंगे और देश की आशाओं को पूर्ण करने की दिशा में महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठाएंगे. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
The land acquisition bill was also tabled amid uproar from the opposition. The government had failed to get the bill passed in first half of the budget session, forcing it to introduce it as an ordinance. The main opposition, Congress Party, said it won't allow the government to bring the amendment as an ordinance once more.
वो बार-बार ऑर्डिनेंस के रूप में ला रहे हैं, ये ठीक नहीं है. जब जनता नहीं चाहती उस बिल को अमल में लाने के लिए, तो ये बाय फोर्स अनडेमोक्रेटिक मेथड और अपना जो लोकसभा में उनकी ब्रूट मेजॉरिटी है उसका उन्होंने बार बार इस्तेमाल करके ये ऐसी चीजें कर रहे हैं, इसीलिए हम उठाएंगे.
Despite having an absolute majority in the lower house, the BJP is a minority in the upper house, forcing the government to seek the support of the opposition to get many bills passed.
And while the opposition seems to be in no mood to budge over the controversial land bill, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi is expected to lead the party's charge attacking the government.
Rahul Gandhi targeted the government as he continued with the debate on the agrarian crisis during the parliament session on Monday. Rahul spoke in the Lok Sabha, his first speech in the current house. It was also his maiden speech from the opposition side. Reacting to the Congress party's efforts to stonewall the land bill, the ruling BJP said the government was open to ideas.
We are not going to acquire any land for private purpose, not for private businessmen. We want to acquire land only for public purpose and infrastructure for the people, for their welfare. So let us be with open mind.
The Congress had on Sunday declared a full-scale war against what it called an anti-farmer and pro-industrialist land acquisition bill. The occasion also marked Rahul's return to active politics from a self-imposed 2-month break. The 44-year-old Congress scion accused Prime Minister Narendra Modi for bringing the ordinance on the bill to pay back loans of industrialists. He said it was against the interests of farmers and tribals.
मोदी जी ने चुनाव कैसे जीता, मैं आपको समझा देता हूं. उन्होंने बड़े बड़े उद्योगपतियों से कर्ज लिया है और उस कर्ज को वो कैसे निभाएंगे, आपकी जमीन उन उद्योगपतियों को देकर निभाएंगे.
The Land Acquisition Bill 2015 with 9 amendments was reintroduced in the Parliament on Monday. The ruckus, however, comes as Prime Minister Modi approaches a 1-year anniversary in office. The Congress, which is hell-bound against it, has the support of other parties like the Trinamool Congress, Janata Dal United and CPIM. Prime Minister Modi had in December last year issued an executive order to exempt projects in defence, rural electrification, rural housing and industrial corridors from provisions of the 2013 law requiring 80% of affected landowners to agree to a deal.
China is hoping to cement links with its old ally Pakistan by generating opportunities and bilateral cooperation. Chinese President Xi Jinping began his Pakistan visit on Monday, hoping to extend Beijing's influence in the region. Here is a report.
Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Islamabad to a rousing welcome on Monday. President Xi, who is accompanied by First Lady Madam Peng Liyuan and a delegation of senior officials, was received by his Pakistani counterpart Mamnoon Hussain, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Army Chief General Rahul Sharif and Defence Minister Khwaja Asif. This is President Xi's maiden visit to Pakistan and the first by a Chinese president in 9 years. Pakistan's major cities were spruced up to welcome the Chinese president. While flags lined every corner of the roads, more than 1,000 police officers are overseeing the security. President Xi's crucial two-day state visit will seal some historic deals apart from launching energy and infrastructure projects worth $46 billion. Beijing is expected to roll out nearly $28 billion for the first phase of the flagship Pakistan-China economic corridor running from Gwadar in Balochistan province to China's western Xinjiang region. Chinese ambassador to Pakistan Sun Weidong said the visit is designed to make strategic long-term planning for bilateral relationship.
习主席的这次国事访问将对中巴关系的未来发展做出战略规划和长远部署，全面地提升中巴两国的战略合作伙伴关系，推进中巴在各领域的一批务实合作项目，取得丰硕的成果。习近平主席的这次访问，还将进一步深化两国人民之间的传统友谊，进一步打造中巴命运共同体。
Pakistanis remained hopeful that the Chinese investment, which significantly outweighs American funding in Pakistan, will boost their country's struggling economy.
पाक चीन दोस्ती जो है बहुत अच्छी है, हमारे बहुत अच्छे तल्लुकात है चीन के साथ, लेकिन हमारे सियासतदानों को भी चाहिए कि चीन के साथ अच्छे तल्लुकात रखें। अमेरिका के पीछे बहुत कम भागें, क्योंकि अमेरिका हमारा मुखलस दोस्त नहीं है, चीन हमारा बहुत अच्छा दोस्त है।
President Xi is said to hold high-level talks with the Pakistani leadership. He will also address the joint session of parliament in Islamabad on Tuesday. The two sides are also scheduled to discuss security in the region, with the recent deal of Pakistan buying 8 Chinese submarines featuring on the agenda.
Pakistan and Afghanistan armies should work together to fight the threat of militancy in the region, which is affecting both the neighbors, Pakistan Army Chief General Rahul Sharif has said. This comes as the two countries are facing a growing threat from insurgents, including the Islamic State.
The army chiefs of Pakistan and Afghanistan met in Kabul in Pakistan over the weekend to discuss the issue of militancy. Afghan Army Chief General Sher Mohammad Karimi said the two countries should fight the growing threat of terrorism in the region.
This new enemy, which is a common enemy of all of us and of the state systems in our region, does not recognize boundaries and is not bound by any religious or moral principles. Their naked, nefarious design is to undermine states and grab power through terror and fear. Countering and ultimately defeating this menace and threat effectively therefore requires sincere, close, result-oriented cooperation and coordination between states, especially between next-door neighbors.
The meeting came hours after the Islamic State militants carried out twin attacks in eastern Afghan city of Jalalabad, killing 34 people. Saturday's attack was the biggest by the ISIS militants in the country. It was carried out at a time when intelligence agencies recently warned of the growing influence of the Middle East-based militia in Afghanistan, where the Taliban's hold is weakening. Pakistan had also registered its first attack claimed by the ISIS after a US doctor was shot in Karachi last week. Though there is no confirmed presence of the terror outfit in both the countries, a number of local militant groups have already pledged allegiance to the ISIS and the Caliphate.
A Sri Lankan court has summoned former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in a bribery case. Rajapaksa, along with his brother and former Defence Secretary Gotabhai, have been asked to appear before the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption this week to record their statements. According to reports, the ex-president will seek legal advice before reporting to the Commission on Friday. The case is regarding fraudulent documents produced with an attempt to malign President Maithripala Sirisena and Premier Ranil Wickremesinghe during the run-up to the presidential election last year. Mahinda Rajapaksa is also facing international censure for alleged human rights violations during the final phase of the country's civil war and discontent among the Tamil minority over reconciliation. Pakistan's decision to stay neutral in the Yemen conflict will not affect its citizens working in Gulf countries, the government has said. This comes even as Sunni religious groups in Pakistan continue their protests asking the government to change its decision.
Pakistan will continue to support Saudi Arabia despite turning down Riyadh's request for combat assistance in Yemen, Finance Minister Ishaq Dar has said. He also ruled out possibility of Pakistan nationals being expelled from Gulf countries due to the parliament's decision. UAE had last week termed Islamabad's decision unexpected and warned that it would come at a cost. The Middle East is one of the biggest sources of Pakistan's foreign exchange. An estimated $13.3 billion was sent back home in the past 9 months by some 1.4 million Pakistanis working in the Gulf region. Countries including the UAE and Saudi also have large investments in Pakistan. Meanwhile, various Sunni groups in the country are continuing the protest against the parliament resolution on Yemen. They called upon the government to change its decision.
ये इज्तिमा इसलिए इकट्ठा हुआ कि उसने मुतालबा किया है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान से कि वो सऊदी अरब के एहसानात का बदला देते हुए और अपनी मॉरल ड्यूटी, अपना अखलाकी फ़र्ज़ अदा करते हुए वो भी सऊदी अरब की उसी तरह इमदाद करे जिस तरह पाकिस्तान की सऊदी अरब इमदाद करता रहा है।
इस तरह सऊदीया गैर मशरूत हमेशा पाकिस्तान की मदद करता है, हमें भी गैर मशरूत तौर पे उनकी मुकम्मल हमायत उनकी ख़्वाहिशात के मुताबिक करनी चाहिए।
Pakistan Parliament had earlier this month passed a unanimous resolution urging the government to stay neutral in the conflict. The move came as a surprise owing to the religious and economic ties the two Sunni-dominant countries share. Saudi royal family had also sheltered Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif for nearly a decade after he was ousted in a military coup in 1999.
India on Monday unveiled INS Visakhapatnam, the country's most advanced destroyer, to its naval fleet. The indigenously built warship with nuclear and bioweapon capabilities was launched by Navy Chief Admiral Robin Dhawan in western Mumbai. Built at a cost of $4.6 billion, it will also be equipped with the Israeli multi-function surveillance threat alert radar. INS Visakhapatnam is the first in the series of 4 destroyers which India is currently building with an aim to strengthen its naval fleet. INS Visakhapatnam will give a major fillip to the country's maritime capabilities when it will be officially inducted into the Indian Navy in 2018. Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. Rahul Gandhi leads India's opposition attack against government as budget session resumes. Pakistan and China to sign deals worth $46 billion during President Xi's visit. And Lankan court summons former President Rajapaksa in bribery case. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.